Hello there. This is Jen T. Grace, founder and CEO of Publish Your Purpose. And I'm here for a book launch with Karla Adkins with the book And She Came Tumbling Down. Hey, Karla, how are you?
I'm great. How are you doing this morning?
I am doing great. And what I love is that today is your actual book launch. So sometimes I'm having these conversations and it's, a couple months after the book is launched. Sometimes it's a little bit before, but like today is like the day. Like you are in book launch mode at this very moment. How does that make you feel? Just with that said.
It's so interesting you asked me that because I was thinking about that this morning because during the writing process, even meeting with you beforehand, I kept wondering, like, how am I going to feel? How am I going to feel? And I knew it would be around this time. That was my goal always because obviously, And She Came Tumbling Down is about my journey with alcohol and my health journey freedom date is September 10th. And that will be 8 years for me. Since not having any alcohol. And so I knew that's a big deal for me. I love numbers. So that was my goal when writing. And so I knew it'd be around this time, but I couldn't imagine how it would feel like
Yeah.
to really be putting my story out there. And I have to tell you, it's surreal. It's very freeing.
Yeah.
It's exciting. And I feel nothing but excited today, and I'm very grateful for that.
Oh, I love that. There's just something, and I feel like there's a number of things here because in your case, we usually advise this to kind of get your ebook out there, get people reading it, get some reviews. That way, when today happens, there's already like the social proof, right? Like already people have read it, they've left reviews, and so I know that you've already had a whole litany of feedback that you have been provided. Do you want to just cherry pick one of the like one experience that you've had so far, even though like today is launch day, but like just in the last few weeks of someone having read your book?
Oh, yeah. And I have to say too, I'm so glad that that happened. I think today I don't feel so raw because it's been read,
Yeah.
it's been read. You know, Definitely I love hearing, and I've heard from several people because they know me, as they feel like they can hear me, um, reading this book. They hear my sense of humor. They just hear my language and how I talk, and that was really important to me when writing it. Um, but it's truly to me, Jen, is the messages that I've gotten from people, thanking me and telling me that they've been scared. They've been worried about their drinking. They've been ashamed of their drinking. And when people come and tell me that, and thank me for sharing my journey, I'm telling you, just those comments alone will make anything worth it for me in this book. And because I know what it's like to be scared. I know what it's like to feel hopeless and feel like there's no way I can overcome
Mhm.
this issue. And so those messages are they're very special to me.
Yeah, that's really sweet. And obviously, or maybe it's obvious to us, but not to those watching, but this obviously stemmed from a health crisis, right? So, and you
Mhm.
already just kind of alluded to that a little bit being 8 years ago. What was it about this experience and you in particular that just made you decide to actually write a book so you can help other people having gone through what you went through?
Oh gosh. Well, first of all, I battled writing a book. That I If you had told me that 2 years ago that I would be sharing my entire story, not just cherry picked pieces of my story, just really putting it all out there. If you had told me that, I would not have believed it. Um, but I think the whole time during my health journey, I've had people that have poured into me. And I remember, and I have a very special relationship with my physicians that helped me through this. Dr. Jofflin and Dr. Sarah Allen, they believed in me. And I remember this feeling of going, I want to do that for somebody one day.
Mhm.
I didn't know it would be telling my whole story, but clearly that's what it needed to be. And um, I really, when I was so sick 8 years ago, and truthfully not knowing whether I was going to make it or not, I was in this desperate search for, I needed a healthy face on the other side of someone that wasn't a drinker, that was like healthy and lived life and loved life. I needed that face. And I am now at the point, obviously, as sick as I got, you don't look at me and you can't tell how sick I got. You don't look at me and you can't tell that I have a diagnosis of cirrhosis. You don't look at that. And I knew that, especially with what was going on during the pandemic, that's where I really had this bubble of energy inside of me going, this something has to stop. Something has to give here because people are dying. And, the age of the person that this was happening to just it's getting younger. And what happened to me, which was, an acute liver failure where it happens quickly, this is becoming more common instead of, kind of a more rare event.
Yeah.
And that just is what threw me into, I've got to write this out. And also was hearing from, Dr. Allen told me once, because I was trying to do a course once again, and thinking a course, I could create my narrative, right? I could control it too, of exactly what I said. And she said to me, it was so cool. She said, Karla, now come on, you've got some serious street cred here. You've got to tell people what you went through so they know why they should listen to you. Why is it so important to hear your story? And that was really where it started. And as scary as it was, I knew that was the right thing to do.
Yeah, there's no shortage of fear when it comes to publishing a book. And I think even more so when it's a book like yours, where you really went raw and deep and share like all of the vulnerabilities, where, sometimes if we're writing a business book or a leadership book, like you still have to have your story in there, but it's nothing to the degree of a book like yours in terms of that depth of what you had to write. One thing I want to acknowledge, and can you just, I know you have a copy of your book nearby. Can you just lift it up for just visual purposes for a moment? So one thing I want to acknowledge is the intentional, I don't want to say accessibility, but I think that's the right word. The intentional accessibility about the design of your book, the way that the cover looks, the name of your book, because we wanted to make sure collectively that people would pick it up and read it and not have that shame or stigma or all of those negative things that kind of come with this territory. So can you just kind of speak to that a little bit? Because the title is "And She Came Tumbling Down." Would you mind reading your subtitle as well?
Yes, it's "And She Came Tumbling Down, Breaking the Bonds of Alcohol and Creating a Life of Freedom." And I am obsessed with the cover of the book, which was quite the journey getting to. But again, everything's a process, right? And one thing that I wanted this book to look different. I wanted it to be inviting. I wanted it to feel hopeful.
Yeah.
Because my story, as dark as it gets, and it does, I have a hard story to tell, but at the end of the day, I want people to feel hopeful. And, when part of the process, I had to do homework and go out to Barnes and Noble, go out to bookstores, which was very fun, by the way. And just looking at covers and asking, trying to, what in the genre, like, so even books about alcohol, what did I like or what did I not like? And one thing I did not want is I'm like, I do not want alcohol on my cover. Like, this is a story about that, but this cover, I want it to be bright and I want it to be hopeful. And I'm actually really glad I'm sitting in this room because the cover, actually, I coach a lot, and I've coached in big groups, and all of these people are very special to me. And I can't tell you how many people comment on my picture behind me. And it's something because they're like, it's bright and it seems hopeful. And actually several people have purchased it. And I'm like, it's the highest compliment ever. And I knew in the book, so yellow is a bright, happy color. There's actually the chapter yellow, which is to me, one of my favorite chapters in the book. Only it was a hard chapter to write. I feel like it's the climb, and you feel the where I'm about to fall,
Mm.
and my take on yellow. And but what I love is that we were able to incorporate the flowers, and it gives the feel of tumbling down. And then my amazing, beautiful friend Allison Duff with LED Photography, she got this amazing shot of my feet. And we were just in this process, and she was like, we just both looked at it and we are like, that has got to be on the cover.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Mm, so good. Yeah, there's just something that feels very optimistic and hopeful about your book. And obviously, as a team, we were all on a complete, like an easy read for somebody, even though it's not an easy, like it's an easy read in the sense that it's the pace, the tempo, you know, the energy of it, people can kind of read through and they feel your voice, they sense your voice. The
Yeah.
topic itself, not so, you know, not so easy. But
No.
you know, there's a way to kind of balance that. And you know, when you're really intentional about it, you can kind of have both of those things where someone can like really be in that raw depth with you, but also be reading it in a way that they can actually finish it. Because that's a whole other can of worms of like not being able to finish a book because it's too hard.
Oh, absolutely. And that's where I knew going into this, I couldn't escape all the hard stuff because it was my truth. It was my story. But truthfully, like sticking to what people needed to know, but I couldn't dance around those topics because people see themselves in that. And also it needed to be the truth of this is what can happen. And believe me, I don't want you in my shoes. I don't want anybody to get to the point that I did in my journey, because there is truly a point where you play the game long enough and there's nothing that they can do, and your control is completely taken from you. And so I don't want people in that, but I wanted people to see what all happened, but then see that one, that I did come out of it. I definitely tried to also include the truth behind stopping drinking, because that's hard. It's very intimidating. We live in a world, a very boozy society where it's just you're normal if you drink. And one of my passions is absolutely to just normalize not drinking. We shouldn't be asking people why they don't drink. That should just be a question people don't ask anymore.
Yeah.
And but also seeing how I came out of it, and some things that I did, some tips, and what I walked through and what I can offer to people. But obviously I'm very aware too that stopping drinking is there's a lot more than just, reading a book. We have beliefs around a substance that we have been taught since we were little. Alcohol's good. It helps with stress. It's fun. And so it's really scary when someone's contemplating this, because they're like, how do I do this thing without drinking? And so the book provides that. I hope that, my social media can provide very good, useful tips, resources, so anybody can, really get into this and find freedom.
Yeah, there's something really beautiful about that. So I know who your target market is, but let me just ask this. So if someone themselves are struggling, that's an easy, like, okay, let me, there's like a discretion to the way that the book is designed to. Maybe that's, I think, a better word. Like there's it's a discreetness, right? Like someone could be reading it on public transportation and it doesn't have the wine glass on it, like we were talking about before, like a very intentional choice not to include alcohol on the cover. But is there an opportunity, do you feel, for someone who might have someone in their life who needs this? Like, do you feel like what would that look like for somebody to say, okay, I know someone in my life who is struggling. I want to give them Karla's book. Do you have any guidance for someone who might be in that position to find a gentle way to make that recommendation that's not going to come across offensive somehow?
Oh yeah, and again, this goes back to I really feel for people, because this has been made to be an awkward conversation, and it shouldn't be, because loved ones, friends, they really are concerned, but there's this wall, this gap there that our society has created, and it's just been made to make it difficult to talk about. My suggestion, which has been really cool to, again, just feedback from other people, because I really thought my reader was really, obviously, like you said, the person that's worried, the person that's scared. That is a given, and I cannot wait for this book to get into their hands. But I want that person that's worried, I want them to read the book. And I've actually had several people that have read it, and that's not their personal struggle. But what was such a huge compliment was it brought an empathy and different understanding to that loved one, where this can be something that it is frustrating. It's like, why don't you just stop? It's so clear as can be. Like, it's very frustrating for that person that loves them and wants the best for them. But the book takes you into my world and understanding of how it's not as easy as it looks. And so that to me is another cool reader. And for me, when you can say, because so many times when someone's struggling, people come at them and they're like, you need to stop, and it has nothing to do, like, it's this us versus them line in the sand. But if you come to somebody and say, you know what, I read this book and I just, man, I didn't know these things about alcohol, it takes that wall down for that person, where they just think that they're going to come in and it's all about you. We have got to start talking about the substance and, like, quit shaming the people and understand that that's just what this substance does. And so I think that's a whole new, the book can be that peace offering to bring in and just say, listen, I didn't understand it. I didn't understand this. And I want to, like, look at my own and go, wow, what job am I giving alcohol? What am I?
Yeah.
And to me, it opens up that space to make it safe, to be able for that person to say, you know what, I'm worried or I'm scared. I also just really would love to have this book be a great piece for healthcare providers to hand to their patients, to recommend to their patients. Because I talk a lot about my journey, and I can't imagine being in the shoes of a healthcare provider where they know what's happening. They see what's happening and they're telling this patient to stop.
Yeah.
But one piece that you did get to read, and I don't think, but the afterword and the foreword of the book are both written by my physicians, and it gives me, when I get chills when I just talk about them.
Same.
It's so powerful because, again, it's having them really looking like, okay, how have I been dealing with this? And is this working? That's what my passion point is. There are multiple ways to freedom from the substance. Number one, we have got to start accepting that there's not just one way. There's very traditional methods that are amazing. And I'm so glad that they are out there, but there are so many more options out there. And at the end of the day, I would love for all of us to just be unified and, like, listen, let's just celebrate whatever, helps someone find freedom from this, because we know how painful it is. But having physicians be able to say, you know what, this girl really, went there and she got out of it. And so their patient can get hope and they can have a different conversation in that room, rather than them just being, a number on the chart. Or, listen, it's frustrating. Like, they know what's going to happen, but they don't understand it's not as easy as just saying, okay, I'm not going to do this anymore. It's hard.
Yeah. And the forward of your book, gee, good, my God. Like, I also had, like, full body chills, like, just like it's intense, but
I have not gotten through it once without crying. I haven't. I cry every time. It was so special to have those two women write the bookends of my book, because Dr. Jofflin, she took care of me at the very, very beginning of when I first presented to the hospital, and Dr. Allen took care of me at the end. And so to have that in their words, but it's jaw dropping.
And I think it's a testament to your story, right?
Yeah.
Because if your story weren't as transformational and profound as it is, two well-regarded physicians would not voluntarily be like, yes, let me do this, right? Like
Yes.
that's a big like it's a big ask for anybody to write a forward or an afterword of a book, but it's even more when, it's a physician and they're like, this doesn't benefit me in any way, right? So like I think that speaks volumes to the impact that your book is going to have.
Oh yeah. And believe me, because it is a big ask. These people obviously have a lot on their plate and a lot of things to do. So to ask them, um, made me obviously really nervous, but they really, to not only just jump, they didn't even hesitate. And they
Mhm.
said, yes, absolutely. But you're right. I needed that. I needed, because their voice, let's face it, with their credentials and what they did and them being, it validates my story because they were there. They
Mhm.
saw what happened. And believe me, there's no dramatization of what goes down in my journey. But then, obviously their belief in me to write it too in the afterward because they know how I'm doing now and what I'm doing. And they're both really proud of me. And that means a lot.
Yeah, yeah, and you're here to, you live to tell the tale, which, and not just live, but like thriving and like sharing this with others and working with people to have them also have that same outcome.
Yes, it's one of it never gets old for me. Um, Walking alongside someone on this journey
Mhm.
never gets old for me. To see them come in and obviously scared and afraid, but then knowing they've got a safe space to really talk about this and walking and seeing them find freedom will never get old for me. I
Mhm.
it's truly one of my favorite things. And that really was because at the end of the day, when I was talking, with my coach, Lorna Wilson, I love her. She is like, how can you? My goal was to be, how can I reach that person that was me?
Mhm.
And you know what? I wanted to, not everybody can afford coaching right away, or nobody can, the book really is this piece of me that I can put out into the world. It can be accessible to anybody,
Yeah.
to at least plant that seed and start this journey.
Mhm. That's the beautiful thing about a book is that there is kind of an equalization in terms of information.
Yeah.
Whereas, it is hard when, like, if you don't have the resources to be able to hire a coach. And so, what other thing, like, what are other ways that you are supporting people? And I'm gonna make sure that your website is visible as you're discussing this. Just
Yes.
for the,
Well, we're definitely adding a resources page on my website right now. So, if you go there, please join the newsletter. I promise I'm not going to be the kind of place that bombards you with emails all the time. It's just going to be when something big is happening. But, I have the opportunity to coach in this beautiful space called the Zero Proof Life. And we're doing a big challenge that we're going to keep going. It's going to be 6-week challenges to help
yeah.
people introduce this whole concept of
Mhm.
how do I do this?
Yeah.
How do I step away from drinking? We're going to be doing that starting actually the end of this month, September 26th, and continue doing that as we go along. And I've got plans to do all kinds of things. I've got my workbook and journal in the works right now. And, but on my resources page on my website, I want to be able to direct people to podcasts that are helpful. And this is not just me. I want to really direct people to good, informative people and they may have group coaching that might be the right thing for you. I
Mhm.
just think it's important for somebody to have some good, a home base of where can I find this stuff. And I know podcasts for me, um, when I first stopped drinking, I just couldn't get enough because I
Mhm.
wanted to know how to do this. And so there's some great ones out there. But yeah, there'll be a resource page there. And obviously, I do group coaching in Zero Proof. And so there's ways to work directly with me there.
Yeah, that's so good. Yeah, and I think just to make it clear for folks, this isn't a straight memoir. It's not just you sharing your story, which if it were, great. But there is guidance in actionable things that people can actually do to help implement things in their own lives. So it's part story, part like, okay, well, how can I do this myself?
Oh, yeah. Because you wouldn't believe, Jen, one of the like number one questions and one of the hardest things when people stop drinking is how do I socialize?
Mm,
which is sad, but it's just the truth. It's
mhm,
where we're at right now.
mm,
And it's very intimidating. Let's say they're on day 15, they feel good,
mhm.
all these things, but they've got this thing coming up that they want to do. That is one of the number one things that come up for people. And it was the truth for me. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to say.
Yeah.
So I wanted to make sure to include things, actionable things, like you said in the book, like sleep and socializing, just my tips, some quick tips
Mhm.
to walk through those things. And it's not as scary.
Yeah. Oh, so good. So my call to action for people who are watching, of which we have a few, I see some congratulations floating about here
Thank
and there, which is
you.
wonderful. I think my call to action is for those who aren't struggling, but might have someone in their life who is, to just read it to get a better sense of who that person is. Like you said, it like really provides just a deeper level of empathy for the person that you might have in your life. And then that way you can be a better advocate and support system for that person. So instead of getting frustrated that that they haven't done anything, like you can actually help be part of their journey of, of getting themselves healthier. So that would be my call to action. Then of course, if anyone's struggling, I think that that's a much easier, like, just go check out the book, like you can't go wrong, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I just feel like you won't feel alone
Yeah.
once you've read it.
Yeah.
And I hope, like I said, it just brings hope. That was my intention and passion behind the book, is to really bring those people hope that really feel pretty hopeless right now.
Yeah. Oh, so good. Do you have any final parting words before we conclude?
No, that's it. Just thank you for having me. This is new for me, so it's exciting to be on this live with you. And I really appreciate the space, and I hope everybody, enjoys it and share it with others.
Yeah, so good. We have a comment that says, "We are very proud of Karla as she shares her story of hope," all caps.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Thank you, Carolyn.
Very sweet. Thank you, Karla. I'm wishing you the very best for the rest of your book launch day. So, like, today's the day. So, if you are watching on today, September 7th, please go ahead and get the book, because it just helps, helps the algorithms and helps all of the things make sure that, Karla's book is visible to more people. So,
Yeah.
that is my request. And then, if you would like to go check out Karla's information, her website's at the bottom of the screen. Please go ahead, do so. Get on the mailing list, all the things, because you are a wealth of wisdom that people need to learn from.
Thank you so much, Jen. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you bet. All right. I will talk to you